Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Thanks for joining me from around the planet. Today on the program, the cascade of calls for Biden to step down gets even bigger, gets even louder. Legacy media, social media, the celebrity class coming after Administrator Biden. Members of his own communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat, party are coming after Joe Biden to step down. But will he? Should he? What are the answers to the questions? What are people saying? And Trump, at his campaign rally last night in Doral, Florida, says one of the funniest things I've heard him say in a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about all of this. Should Biden step down? Call me, 901-316-8404. The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, everybody. My name is General Mike Flynn. And I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings, where I'm doing what I've been ordained by God to do, to restore our republic to the divine providence of God and the founding fathers. One of the funniest things I have seen at a Trump rally in a long time, and there's a lot of them, happened last night. President Trump makes his first appearance in a few days at a campaign event. He's been out in public every day the last few weeks playing golf, taking it easy. Love to watch the liberal heads explode about that, by the way. Where's Trump? How come he's not making any public appearances? Where is he? What's wrong with him? You know, they all try to conjure up this nonsense because their candidate obviously not doing so well. Trump doesn't need to campaign. I mean, the way that the radical left members of the coalition of immorality are feeding upon him, Trump doesn't need to. This is the best campaign gift that any candidate could get, to see his own side turn on him. But the funniest thing last night, if you watched, you saw it. But if you didn't, let me give you a little taste of what you're about to see here. So President Trump going off script. And, you know, during the debate, they got into kind of this sophomoric exchange back and forth about who has the better golf score and so forth and this and that. Trump finally said, all right, let's stop acting like kids and get on with it. So Biden doesn't know what his handicap is. Probably doesn't even have it. He probably hasn't played golf in over a year, to be honest with you. So Trump last night makes a bet. He challenges Biden to a round of golf, and he offers Biden some incentives. Before I give it all away, I want you to take a look. Take a look at what happened last night at Trump Doral in Florida.
I'm also officially challenging Crooked Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here. On Doral's Blue Monster, considered one of the greatest tournament golf courses anywhere in the world, one of the great courses of the world. It will be among the most watched sporting events in history, maybe bigger than the Ryder Cup or even the Masters. And I will even give Joe Biden 10 strokes aside. 10 strokes, that's a lot. That means 20 strokes in case you don't play golf. I will give him 10 strokes aside, and if he wins, I will give the charity of his choice, any charity that he wants, $1 million. And I'll bet you he doesn't take the offer.
This is why we love the guy. It's why I love the guy. That's classic Trump. Absolutely brilliant. No way in God's green earth that Biden's going to exchange. They, of course, sent out a statement almost immediately last night after this. Biden's too busy running the country. Right. Yeah, there's no way. 20 strokes, 10 on the front nine, 10 on the back nine, $1 million to Biden's charity of choice. We love it. It's not even close. And so it's, I think it's Trump at his best, relaxed, in control. And in the backdrop, of course, we're all watching the radical media and the liberal members of the hierarchy within their party feast and have a feeding frenzy on Administrator Biden. If you've been watching the legacy news lately or keeping up on social media, that's all what they're doing. The radical left liberal mob has absolutely turned on Administrator Biden. It reminds you of Shark Week almost, right? So many sharks in the water. Feeding frenzy. Look out, Joe. Look out. There's another one. Fins to the left, fins to the right, like Jimmy Buffett used to say, right? Although about something completely different. Yes, so they're feeding on him, and it's a joy to see. Every day, the numbers of liberal hierarchy members of the celebrity class, the general public, they grow and grow in number, and they call for Administrator Biden to step down. It's reaching a fever pitch, no doubt about it, louder and louder. I want to show you a series of clips just to highlight this. Now, these clips are only a couple of weeks old at the most, and then they progress up in time to almost current day. But the first one that I want to show you is important. Here's an old Clinton ally, David Axelrod, who was on the air just a few days ago, shortly after the George Stephanopoulos interview. Now, I want to tee it up just by saying Biden had one job during this particular slow pitch softball interview that George gave him. One job. I'm going to let you see if you think that he did it and that he accomplished it. Here's clip number one, David Axelrod on CNN.
Well, the question is, did he change the minds of voters who were watching that? I don't really think so. You know, Jim, I think the thing, and some of it I found sad, but he seems not to be able to compute the fact that people have these questions about him. He said, when George Stephanopoulos asked him if he'd be willing to take a cognitive test, he said, I take a cognitive test every day. Well, the fact is that may be true, but 75% of the American people think he failed. That he fails. I mean, they've lost. And so this is a real problem for him, and it's something that shows up in every.
That's it. And, you know, it is sad. Overall, this is a sad event, and Biden had one job to do. That was an interview, a junior league interview, by the way. No tough questions, no tough pushback from George Stephanopoulos whatsoever. Biden's one job was to convince the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, that he was mentally capable and physically able to conduct the duties of the office of President of the United States. And he failed at doing that. David Axelrod is not alone. He has fear and he has concerns, as do many in the party membership. Here's another clip. This is Martha Raddatz and her 2 cents chiming in. Take a look. Clip number 2.
The clock.
No one can stop the clock. And this is about age. That's exactly what that's about. And this will dominate this campaign. Aging is not like a broken bone. It doesn't get better. So there is an opportunity every time he goes out, every time Joe Biden goes out, that he will show his age. I mean, he said he is not more frail. You ask him, you told him, you say, watch me. Everyone is watching, and believe me, they are going to be watching even more closely as we go forward, George.
And that's just it, ladies and gentlemen. Look, the way that they're treating Administrator Biden makes anyone with any sense of compassion, any sense of empathy, it makes us all feel bad for the man, Biden, that is. And it causes anger to fester up. Anger towards people who are in Biden's inner circle, especially his wife, Jill. Because those of us who know and who have loved people who have dementia and Alzheimer's, I did. My mother and my grandmother both had it. And we know the telltale signs of someone who has it. We know the signs of those disabilities. And it's infuriating that his wife continues to parade him out there like this puppet that he is. And so I don't want you all to think I don't have compassion for Biden. We all have compassion for Biden. Now, this is politics, and it's hardball, right? That's what they call it. It is a game of hardball. We're in it to win it. And we will, I think, have great success in that endeavor. However, our conservative nature is one of empathy, compassion, and of helping people. So I understand that there's all of that going on in the backdrop too, but Jill Biden is the focal point of a lot of this anger, and rightly so. And then we have yet another instance, this one on ABC News, and John Carl admitting that Administrator Biden is going to lose to Donald Trump. Take a look, clip number 3.
But there was nothing in this interview that is calming nerves of jittery Democrats who fear that Joe Biden is on a trajectory to lose this race, to lose to Donald Trump. In fact, for some of those people, the interview is raising new concerns, particularly the fact that he is unwilling or unaware of the fact that he is in a dire situation here regarding the campaign, that he is losing in the view of many Democrats. And frankly, in the polls you cited.
This is an example of how and what I'm talking about. Liberals have no sense of empathy and concern for Joe Biden, nor do they have any empathy or concern for you. Look, this is something that we on the right side, we all know this. That they're all talk and no action. The party of compassion, they call themselves. Nonsense. Nothing, for example, going on at the border shows any sign of compassion. That is exactly the opposite. None of their policies, platform, or politics demonstrates any compassion. It is complete and utter and purposeful chaos. The reasons that liberals show any signs of concern, it's not because they have empathy for Joe Biden, but it's because of their lust for power and their ever-growing reality that they're facing with the fact that they may, in fact, lose power in November. That's the only reason they may show concern. It's not for Joe Biden, the human being. It's for Joe Biden, the politician. So power, prestige, and privilege, all part of the radical liberal hierarchy. That's all they're interested in. No matter what they say in public, they can't handle the thought of not being in charge. Remember, their vision of America is to fundamentally transform her away from the divine providence of God and away from the intent of the founding fathers. Their motto, destroy, build back better. It's in danger of being circumvented by Joe Biden's ineptness and his inability to be elected. That's right. Destroy, build back better. You may hearken back to their build back better motto. It's destroy, build back better. That's it. I was the first one to point that out to you 4 years ago. Destroy it, transform fundamentally, but destroy is what they mean, and then try to build it back in their communist-socialist image. And we don't need to depend, ladies and gentlemen, just on the talking heads in the media to tell us about this evidence of the obvious that we see almost every time Biden makes a public appearance. Here's a clip of Administrator Biden just a few days ago. Okay, now notice, they've put tanning makeup on him, right? They put tanning makeup on him as a countermeasure because of what we all saw during the debate a couple of weeks ago. He looked like death. He looked ghastly. He looked horrible. So they've caked on the tanning makeup. He's out there in public talking. Take a look, clip number 4.
Well, guess what? They're trying to push me out of the race. No! Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
Well, at the very tail end of that clip, I'll beat him again in 2020, he says. So he can't get out of it. It's like you're in quicksand. The faster you try to tread, the faster you sink. He's going down not only in the tan makeup, but he's obviously, I said this the other day, he's obviously got his own Dr. Nick, Dr. George Nicopolis, the infamous doctor to Elvis Presley, right? He's obviously jacked up on something there, being able to scream loud and be, take Joe, when you go out there, make sure you scream, make sure that you say powerful things, be powerful, have some presence, so forth and so on, with the instructions of a teleprompter, with the aid of God knows what kind of cocktail of drugs they've given him to give him that boost of momentum and strength there. And so more evidence of the obvious. The state of confusion that he's in, 2024, 2020, he can't get it straight. Dementia surrounding his mind, it's obvious. And finally, speaking at an event in Philadelphia just a couple of days ago, see if you notice what mistake he makes in this particular clip when he's talking about being thankful to the people in Philadelphia about his career in the Senate and so forth. See if you can point it out. Clip number 5, ladies and gentlemen.
God. Even when I was running for Senate, and each time I ran, quite frankly, not a joke, Philadelphia in particular got me across the line. No, I'm not joking. No, I mean it seriously, organizationally and in terms of fundraising, the whole deal. But look, here's the deal. This election is going to be about block and tackling, simple, basic politics. Simple. It's going to be a matter of how many signs we get out, how many doors we knock on, how many calls we make, and how many requests we answer.
Did you get it? Did you hear it? He's in Philadelphia. Thanking Philly. Thank you, Philly. Every time I ran for the Senate, it was you guys who got me across the finish line. No, really, I mean it. The organization, the door knocking, the signs, this and that, the mailing. You all, Philadelphia, every time I ran for the Senate, you got me across the finish line. Folks, Administrator Biden was a senator from Delaware. Philadelphia has absolutely nothing to do with his ability to run and gain a victory in the Senate. My God, ladies and gentlemen. All right, up against our first break, you're going to take a trip into capitalism. I'm going to remind you to please think about stopping by DougBillings.us sometime this week. DougBillings.us, our brand new website, up and running. Consider the donation tab over there, please. It's how I make a living. It's how I continue to bring you this program. I can't do it without you. We stand shoulder to shoulder. I give you the show for free, but please consider prayerfully a monetary recurring monthly donation over at DougBillings.us. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with me. Cheers.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. TWC.health/Brandon. This is one of our sponsors, has been now for a few years. Here it is. You just go there. If you use that URL, folks, you not only save money, but our program gets credit, which helps us keep doing great shows like this for free and pushing them out. TWC.health/Brandon. Look up here at the top of the page where it says Med Kits. Go down there to the one that says Contagion Emergency Kit. Contagion Emergency Kit. That's the one you want, right, Dr. McCullough?
Right. That's going to cover bird flu. Just you start on day one. I think all the animal workers, people in rural areas need to have these. You can't wait around for the pharmacist. If you start early, that comes with telemedicine. We can intensify the antivirals, get other drugs going. Very affordable. Join through Brandon's website. Join as a member because we're working on ways to replace the used drugs, and you have to be a member to get that advantage.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain throughout the world, coming to you, making you, members who watch and listen to this program, members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, I want to talk to you about this, about Biden, about the campaign. Will he, won't he drop out? Who should they get to replace him if they do? 901-316-8404. 901-316-8404. I'm going to open the phone call lines. Get in line. I would love to have you be part of the right side. So the growing number of people who are calling for Biden to resign, growing and growing and growing. Even Meathead, ladies and gentlemen, one of Administrator Biden's most ardent supporters, Rob Reiner, now publicly calling for Biden to step down. And you see these, I mean, how else can you describe them? Elite members of the celebrity class coming out against, you would never imagine that you would see it. For the last 4 years, Biden is our guy. Trump is the deranged, convicted felon. Never mind that the convictions are temporary. I wonder that when that happens, when Trump is finally vindicated, and we all know that he will be, all of these are going to be wiped out. They're going to be overturned. I wonder if they're all going to be willing to call him the falsely accused and now innocent former president of the United States. You think they'll do that? I doubt it. Okay, well, you're seeing the radical kook celebrity class now, again, join in the shark feeding frenzy of Administrator Biden. George Clooney, of all people, George Clooney, one of the kings of the kooks, comes out in an op-ed piece written and says that it's sad to say, but I can't support him anymore. He needs to step down. I want you to watch this report from the other day, just yesterday, CNN reporting on the George Clooney call for Biden to step down. Clip number 6, ladies and gentlemen.
This just into CNN, big Democratic donor George Clooney, of course, the actor, has just called for President Biden to step aside. CNN's Arlette Saenz joins us now from the White House. Arlette, obviously, this is not going to be welcome news over there. What can you tell us?
No, it won't be, Jim. And this is a significant new New York Times op-ed from actor George Clooney. Now, to remind viewers, George Clooney was one of those celebrities that headlined a major Los Angeles fundraiser with President Biden back in June. And today, he is saying that he believes it is time for President Biden to step aside from this 2024 campaign. Now, George Clooney wrote extensively about President Biden, saying, "We are not going to win in November with this president." He recounted being with Biden at that fundraiser, saying, "It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe big effing deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at that debate." He goes on to say, "Our party leaders need to stop telling us that 51 million people didn't see what we just saw. We're also terrified by the prospect of a second Trump term, that we've opted to ignore every warning sign." This is significant as, of course, George Clooney holds a very large platform. He is well known, but he has also been a longtime Democratic supporter, fundraising not just for Joe Biden, but also for former President Barack Obama. Now, it comes, as you have heard, these deep reservations expressed from various wings of the Democratic Party, from some lawmakers up on Capitol Hill, some donors also indicating that they are concerned about what it would mean to have President Biden at the top of the Democratic ticket in November after that debate. And now you are hearing George Clooney, a key Democratic supporter, key actor, key activist, adding to that chorus of calls for President Biden to step aside. Now, President Biden and his team are simply charging ahead with this campaign at this moment. President Biden right now is speaking at an AFL-CIO meeting as he's trying to shore up support among union leaders who the campaign believes would be key heading into a November election. But certainly this is another pressure point for President Biden as they are having a major Democratic name call for him to step aside at this.
So it is happening. George Clooney, of course, I am no fan of, he's a kook. He's a liberal kook. But just last month, you saw it. He was hosting this huge fundraiser. You might have seen a clip, in fact, of Barack Obama having to help Joe off the stage. We made comment about that on the show last month, but it's only been a month ago that this fundraiser took place. And yesterday, Clooney writes this op-ed piece saying that this was not the same Joe Biden I know. And so he's urging him to step down. So the support and, most importantly, the money are beginning to dry up for the Biden campaign. And I know a lot of people out there, people who I respect, like Tucker Carlson, have said that it's all over for Administrator Biden. There is no way forward for him. But hang on just a minute, ladies and gentlemen, real quickly. And I know we've got some callers on the phone lines. Please, ladies and gentlemen, have patience with me. Hang on to the phone lines if you're on hold. We'll get to you here in just a moment. But let me walk you through something. For all of you who are quick to think that this is an easy fix or that it would be easy to take Joe Biden out and replace him, let me walk you through something. The Biden campaign is definitely made up of, and this is, again, evidence of the obvious, the Biden campaign is made up of these radical liberal communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat, members who are indeed part of organizations that belong to this great and vast coalition of immorality. That's what the Democratic Party has evolved into. But folks, they are not stupid. The campaign knows that millions of Democratic delegates throughout the Republic have already submitted their ballots. And by rule, those ballots belong to Joe Biden and cannot be taken away. So this is in part why Joe feels so emboldened and so brave and so eager to stay in the race. The Biden campaign continues to send out delegate ballots all across the country. And those delegates are legally bound to vote for Joe Biden, to be their nominee. And the kicker is, folks, and here it is, they could have enough votes by the end of this week to clinch it and solidify Joe Biden's nomination. So despite all of the legacy media and social media frenzy out there, it's the end of Joe Biden. There is no way forward. It looks like, at least at this point, that he will be the nominee of this communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And that is a political nightmare for the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri. And it's also a nightmare, quite frankly, for the elected class in Washington, D.C., because to force Joe out is not really an option. And I mean, it's not an option legally, it's not an option logistically, and it's not an option within their own strategy of self-preservation. Clearly, they can't win with Joe at the top of the ticket. But what do? How do they move forward? I'm going to continue talking about that. But first, I'm going to go to the phone lines. I know you're out there and you're ready to talk. The phone number here, ladies and gentlemen, 901-316-8404. Jump in line. We have Alex on the phone lines from Missouri. Alex, welcome to the right side.
Doug, thanks so much for having me on. I do have a question for you relating to Joe Biden and the future. I was on Alex Jones' show earlier, and he proposed a question. If he refuses to step down, do you think the deep state will kill him? And I was wondering if you have any thoughts about that. Would they kill Joe Biden just the way that they did JFK? Part of my thinking is they could, and they're very likely to do so. There's very good similarities, very big similarities in between the JFK situation and the Joe Biden situation. First of all, one of the similarities is both vice presidents ran against the president, then became their vice president. They wanted to be president of the United States. The second thing is they're citing an issue to try and get their president out. For JFK, it was the fact that he was addicted to methamphetamine. For Joe Biden, it's the fact that he's mentally unfit to serve. The third thing is they are both refusing to step down despite the fact they wanted them to for their, quote, really for what they were citing their issue was. What are your thoughts on that, Doug?
No, good thoughts, Alex. I appreciate the phone call very much. So, first of all, I wouldn't put anything past the deep state. We know now, what the FBI, the CIA, and the deep state did to Kennedy, President Kennedy. The differences are, I think, that President Kennedy was out to take the deep state down. The things that he was going to do, the things that he was going to embark upon, whether it be foreign policy, domestic policy, and the things that he was going to be able to reveal to the public, that's completely different than what Biden's doing. That's a completely different threat. So Kennedy was a threat to the establishment. Biden is just in the way of getting them to the presidency. So I worry, frankly, more for President Trump's safety in that regard than I do for Joe Biden as far as the deep state taking somebody out. I think what they'll do with Administrator Biden is not resort to violence and not resort to public humiliation of any kind, but they will offer him some sort of golden parachute, some sort of way out of this thing where he can save face, not be publicly embarrassed, and, retire from a long, illustrious career of public service. Thank you, Joe. And ride off into the sunset with accolades and applause from the radical left commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. I think that's what's going on with Skype calls, Zoom calls, and conference calls all across the Republic, and in back rooms and libraries of Congress with cigars and scotch. I think that's what they're talking about, how they let him out easily with this golden parachute. So I think you bring up a good point about the dangers of the deep state, well met and well received. But I would tend to worry more for President Trump's safety in that regard than I would for Administrator Biden's. Alex, I appreciate your call very much. Tell the people in my home state of Missouri I wish them well. And I, ladies and gentlemen, want to remind you to please head over to DougBillings.us, DougBillings.us. Click on that donate tab over there, please, ladies and gentlemen, so I can continue to produce and deliver this show of truth and patriotism to you. This is how we do it. Prayerfully consider a monthly recurring donation over at DougBillings.us. I give you the show for free, so just consider what it's worth and go from there. I'll be right back with more about the Biden campaign infrastructure collapse right after this. Stay with me. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. The Right Side with Doug Billings. Thanks so much for being with me. The Biden campaign, look, they are in a tailspin, but not convinced that Biden's going to step out necessarily. These delegates, that's a real issue. We are in the season whereby delegates are being sent to national conventions The RNC convention, of course, as most of you know, starts this Sunday evening in Milwaukee, the Democratic National Convention not soon after, and the delegates are lining up and voting. And the votes that have already been cast, and there's millions of them, have already been cast for Administrator Biden. So it's a legal and logistical nightmare and a mess to try to get Biden out of this thing unless they come up with a solution to the rules that are already in place. And I think it'll be some sort of a golden parachute. But it is a shark frenzy now. They are feeding on him and his candidacy. And the radical left, the members of this commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, will not publicly embarrass Joe Biden. They'll call for him to step down. Yes, of course, they already are. But they don't want to publicly embarrass the guy. So that's what's going on, as I was just telling Alex from Missouri on the phone lines. And by the way, 901-316-8404. Get in line. Let's talk about this, you and me. 901-316-8404. They will offer him some sort of golden parachute. What could that possibly be? What would it look like? They've got to give the guy some sort of a way out. I call it a golden parachute, right? In corporate America, that's what you gave people as they were leaving. And a lot of executives would get it, right? A lot of people get angry about the golden parachutes because they get a lot of good stuff, right, when they leave, including a lot of money. But they're going to give Joe something. They're going to, if they want him out, they're going to have to give him something. And I think that they'll look back on his public service, his life in office, which has been a long time. And Joe's got to agree. He won't be forced out. So he's got to agree to this. So for whoever they choose as their nominee to become eligible to receive all of the votes that these delegates have cast, Joe has to agree to it. They can't just take the votes away from him. That's against their rules. Now, I know some of you out there go, well, since when do the Democrats care about rules, Doug? I know, but within their own party rules, believe me, they'll fight to make sure the rules are abided by, and if they need to change them, they'll work to change them. Because it wouldn't surprise me at all if the radical left in their elected class, right? In the elected class, they come up with some sort of a new title for Joe, some sort of a new role, right? One that doesn't require any kind of official approval, one that allows him to retain what they perceive as his dignity for such a lifelong career of service and so forth. Something like, I don't know, maybe what would the radical left, what does something like the radical left sound like? Maybe President Emeritus. Can't you just see it? Them coming up with this term. Look for it. Look for that or something like it to happen. President Emeritus Joe Biden, as if he were some sort of a dean of a university. Chairman Emeritus, remember your days in college and university? President Emeritus Joe Biden. Look for it. The way that the radical left offer him a golden parachute out of his current predicament without public embarrassment and allowing him to at least carry some shred of what they perceive to be dignity. Look for it. President Emeritus Biden. Meanwhile, up until last night, when President Trump held that campaign rally in Doral, Florida, the one that we showed you a piece of at the beginning of the program, where he challenged Biden to the golf match, right? All you saw from the radical left talking pundits and heads on social media for the past 11 days, it's been 11 days. Where is Donald Trump? He's not made a campaign stop. He must be in trouble. Maybe there's a medical emergency. Could he be having issues behind the scenes? Where is he? It's been 11 days. And so you laugh because the answer is so simple. President Trump has been out in public at the golf course. Now, he's not made campaign stops and events until last night, but he's been on the golf course and he's been playing golf. And he doesn't, and the answer to their question is he doesn't have to be on the campaign trail nearly as much and working as hard as he had to. Why not? Because of what I've already noted with you. The radical left mob is absolutely shredding Joe in public with public statements, calls to step down, social media posts. They're doing the campaigning for Donald Trump. It's the best campaign material that's ever been given to an opponent in a political contest. Go ahead, Joe. Shred him. Come on, liberals, do whatever you want. Say whatever you want. We're going to sit back. We're going to watch, and we're going to enjoy it. Go ahead. Feed on one of your own. You know, the reason this is worth noting is because the radical liberal mob usually circles their wagons and fires outward at us when one of their own is in trouble. But this time, they're circling the wagons and firing inward at Joe Biden. And it does not happen often that they do this. And ladies and gentlemen, I enjoy it. I don't enjoy it for Joe Biden's sake. Don't get me wrong, because what I said at the beginning of the program, I really believe. I do have empathy and concern for Joe Biden. I feel sorry for the human being. But I'm enjoying watching the radical left circus play out in this feeding frenzy against him. Now, the real trouble for the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is that their grip on power is slipping away from them. And this is really at the crux of what gets them. It's like this. If there's one thing, my friends, if there's one thing that will cause pure, unadulterated panic within the liberal hierarchy, it's the possibility of losing power. They see their dreams. Remember that mantra that I said earlier? Destroy, build back better. All of you remember the mantra, build back better. But they left out that first word. I was the first one to point this out to you 4 years ago. Destroy. And let me assure you that that word is not one that I'm just making up. It is in their mantra. It is in their playbook. Not the playbook that's made public, but it's in the playbook that they talk about in dark oak paneled rooms with cigars and scotch and on Zoom calls, Skype calls, and conference calls. Destroy America and then build it back better in our communist socialist image. This is exactly what Obama was talking about when he uttered the phrase, we're going to fundamentally transform America. He was just putting it in nicer terms, more palatable terms. He still meant destroy. And the person who obviously represents all of their loss, all of their potential loss of power, and the possibility of conservative gain, the person that represents that is, as you know, Donald Trump. And that's why, when we look back over the past 4 years, if not longer, that's why they, the radical left, have launched such an incredible barrage of lawfare against President Trump. He represents everything that they stand, that he represents everything that will take away their power. He represents everything, and even more so than that. And I think, and I know President Trump would agree with this, it's not Trump's own ability to reveal to us the width and the depth of the deep state. He's clearly done that, no question, more so than any other president in our history. And in fact, when you look back over the vast array of accomplishments that belong to Donald Trump, key among them, if not first on the list, is that he was the first to show us the depth and the breadth of the evil of the swamp and the deep state. But what gets the liberals even more than what gets them about Trump is that they know that the majority of American people are now aligning with President Trump. You see, it's you, ladies and gentlemen, that the radical liberal mob is against. And Trump represents you, and they cannot separate Trump from you. And that pisses them off. They cannot separate his representation of you from what he will do for you. And it resembles and it belongs to, it adheres to his image, his brand, and his campaign. It is that simple. And from that truth, you see born rage and chaos and the resist movement, all of it. As soon as he came down the escalator in 2016, the resist movement was born a resist movement born from evil and rage and chaos. Cities on fire throughout America. Cities that were run, led, and managed by the communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And they know full well that the majority of all voting demographics within this republic are now turning towards President Trump. So in a real way, Biden has been a great unifier, believe it or not. He's unified us against him and against the platform, the policies, and the politics of the radical left communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. Every demographic, white, black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, men, women, and Gen Z, the youth, coming towards Trump in record numbers. All of this, some of the most terrifying truths to face if you're a member of that radical left communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. There is not one legitimate poll in the United States or the world that shows Administrator Biden leading President Trump. And so this is it. This is the issue. This leads me to some of the final points that I want to share with you in the next segment of the program. I still want to hear from you, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, phone lines still open. 901-316-8404. 901-316-8404. Don't be afraid. I'll be gentle. I want to hear from you. This is real. This is what they're talking about in the radical left circle of influence. How do they get Joe out without embarrassing him? How do we separate Trump from this new wave of support? How do we commandeer the public, if you will? How do we get to the people? How do we effectively peel away this support? By putting up Kamala Harris? I don't think so. She's despised more than Trump. Remember, she's a California liberal radical. She's in many ways worse than Administrator Biden. Gavin Newsom, maybe so, but still, look at California. Look what Newsom has done. Look, it's true with every Democrat in charge of those states. On the West Coast, I'll just use them as example. But in every state in the union, Seattle, Washington State, right? Beautiful state. Oregon, a beautiful state. California, gorgeous state. All these states happen to be run, led, and managed by members of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as the Democrat Party. And they are in utter chaos and decline. Vast exodus of people. Businesses know. California, the highest rate of homelessness in the nation, probably the world. Gavin Newsom is the answer. You see, they don't have anyone that can look to a record and say, look, I've demonstrated success. Look at what I've done. They have no one. All they have are entitlements that they promise people, or they have the chaos that they inflict in hopes that it brings them more votes. Key in point, the border issue. We've talked 100 times about how the purpose and the reason behind the border is so they have more members of their electoral base, the radical left. So what are they going to do? Who are they going to? This is why they bring all this stuff up. This is why they give free stuff away. They buy votes. They can't earn them, not from any record of any potential candidate. And they know this, and they're terrified. And I think it's glorious. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be right back. Stay with me. You're going to take a break and a trip into capitalism, that which God inspired to create, to fund, and run his intended republic. I'll be right back right after this. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that you could change the trajectory of your aging process? Look and feel better, live younger, be more active, less pain when you move around, sleep better, diminish the lines and the wrinkles on your face? Really? This is what I'm telling you. It's possible. You see, low stem cell activity happens when we get older, and it could be causing many of the health problems that some people have in the world today. Because as we get older, we have less stem cell activity, which means we age faster and we heal slower. The secret is a clinically proven and patented phototherapy non-transdermal patch whose technology is the result of over 90 clinical studies and over 20 years of research. Your healthier life can begin today, and you can discover true age reversal. Age reversal, ladies and gentlemen. Please go to liveyounger.doug.us. liveyounger.doug.us, ladies and gentlemen. Get over there today. Or if you'd like, text my name, Doug, to 41372. Doug, text it, 41372, and get over to liveyounger.doug.us. Get younger, feel younger. I'm doing it. I'm wearing this patch. I feel great, and so will you. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
Doug Billings, the shining light of truth and American exceptionalism.
Absolutely the shining light of American truth and exceptionalism. We make no apology for it. We are a nation inspired by God, our founding documents inspired by God, written by men. I believe it, and I know that you do too. So American exceptionalism is real. It exists. And we, in all humility, are a guiding beacon for the rest of the world. So a final thought or two about the topics of the day, about this implosion that Joe Biden is facing within his party, about the shark feeding frenzy, if you will, going on in the media and in the celebrity class, in the elected class, and so forth. This is important, and I don't want this to fall on deaf ears, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, of all of the things that I've spoken about in this program or in any program, what I'm about to tell you are some of the most important things that we need to remember as conservatives, people who believe in American exceptionalism, people who believe that God's divine providence was meant and intended by the founding fathers to be woven in to our society, into our American life. This is the election season, as you know. We have a major general presidential election coming up in November. But this time right now, July and August, this is primary season, where we conservatives get to go to the polls and select who will run in the general election in November. And for far too long, we conservatives have ignored that responsibility of ours, the responsibility to participate fully in the rights that God has given us. We become lackadaisical. We have, if it's apathy, laziness, I don't know, but we don't get involved thoroughly enough in our local levels during primary season. So I'm begging you, get involved and vote this August. In whenever your primary elections are, vote. Get involved and vote for true America First MAGA candidates. We've got to get them into office. This is how it all begins. Our fight to reclaim the republic does not begin in Washington, D.C. I promise you this. It begins in your local county, wherever you live, ladies and gentlemen. That's where you must begin. Do the conservative hard work of what I call determined patriotism. Vote in your primaries. Select. Well, first of all, vet. If you're not vetting, ladies and gentlemen, in your county, that's a mistake. You have got to vet these candidates for the right and the honor to put an R behind their name on the ballot. Our work doesn't begin and end just in November. And our rights do, in fact, come from God. And I'll put it to you this way. We, good people, my friends, we do not honor God when we do not participate in the rights that he has given to us. And we do not honor our military, who have gone to the battlefield and in many cases offered the ultimate sacrifice to protect our rights that come to us from God. Think about it in those terms: honoring God, honoring the military, doing our patriotic duty, engaging in determined patriotism. Determined patriotism. November is not just the only day. November 5th, it's not it. Every day, really, but primary season is also important. Our duty, the work that we have to do, that we've so often in the past failed to do, to show up in person and vote in our primary elections. I can't say it enough. I can't stress it enough. Please, for the love of God, for the love of country, get up and vote this primary season. And vet, find, if you don't know, in your counties, look up your Republican committee men and women and the groups that they belong to. Look them up. Every state, almost every county has one. Look them up, seek them out, find them, talk to them. Ask them, do we vet our Republican candidates in this county, in this state? Because we should. Far too often we have Democrats who know that they can't be elected in their district, who attach an R behind their name. They register to get on the ballot as a Republican, and they vote with them, with the liberals, every time. I can't say anything that's more important than this. Participate. Participate in the rights that God has given you. Key among them, the right to vote. And protect the rights of others who can't. The unborn. The other day, the Republican National Committee released their new platform for 2024, and a lot of conservatives out there took issue with it because they felt as if it did not give enough verbiage to the right to life issue. A long story, and we're at the end of this show, but I just want to say a few closing thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, the right to life is a winning issue for Republicans. Life is a winning issue for us, and the Republican platform did not diminish the moral high ground that we have on this issue. President Trump has rightly and correctly framed the issue for us. The right to life, as with almost every other right that we have, is not disseminated from the federal government to us. The federal government has no right. That's why Roe v. Wade was overturned, my friends, because it improperly said that the federal government could allow abortion. Well, just as much as the federal government can't allow it, they can't forbid it. That's not the federal government's job. The founders intended those decisions to reside within individual states. So again, the reason that it's important for us to get involved in our primaries and to vote in every election that's out there is because when we elect true Make America Great Again, America First candidates, we begin then to take over our states. And then we begin to draft and pass legislation that will limit, if not eliminate, abortion. It is properly phrased and framed as a state issue by President Trump. So go with him on this and get involved in your local levels. Take over your state, and we will see this issue and more restored. And we, above that even, will see the Republic of these United States restored to the divine providence of God. Ladies and gentlemen, again, please consider going over to dougbillings.us. Dougbillings.us, ladies and gentlemen, that's where you can donate a monthly recurring donation so that I can continue to bring you the program. Until next time, join me every Monday through Friday right here. And I'll take your calls live, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
Welcome to Technocracy News with your host, Patrick Wood, and I'm Logan House, as you might know. Today we're going to be covering a couple topics. If you check my computer here, we have 3 headlines. Ukraine AI ushers in the age of killer robots. The Rockefellers created 999 climate change institutions, foundations, and activist groups. And biodefense will win a military coup, took over public health. Patrick, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. This is so good to be with you, especially because I'm so much around people with gray hair, right? This is good. I have somebody that has regular colored hair.
That's funny. Well, that's my first show I've ever done, so it'll be a learning curve, but we'll get there.
You're absolutely. You're going to do great, and I'm really glad that we can do it together.
Yeah, it's exciting. Which one do you want to start with?
We want to start first with the article about the AI robots.
Okay.
This is really a scary thing. This is a purely technocratic initiative. And let me just back up a little bit, talk about Ukraine in particular. This concerns Ukraine in particular. This type of development is not being, we don't see it anywhere else in the world at this point other than in Ukraine. Ukraine has traditionally been the most corrupt country in the world, even to the point even NATO didn't want to let them join because they're so corrupt. But we see all of these technocratic initiatives started in Ukraine when they're fighting the war. Things like universal ID, surveillance, total surveillance with facial recognition, listening post, etc. Millions of dollars have been poured into Ukraine to achieve this stuff. Now we see they decided, some along the way, to put this AI technology into drones to make them fully autonomous. And let me we'll see what this really means. It used to be that a human had to be on a joystick or something to control a drone that's going to kill somebody. Now, they don't have to do that. There does not need to be a human on the other end. Once they set the program for destruction, or maybe a location, or maybe a person, it can be recognized by facial recognition. Once that drone leaves the control of a human, it's on its own. In other words, it's going to get the target that it wants, whether anybody wants to stop it or not. This means that electronic jamming will not be possible because there's nobody controlling it. There's no signal going to the drone to instruct it. This is a new class of weaponry that they're dealing with now. And the scary thing is, you look at the first part of the article where it quotes in the blue, the pressure to outthink the enemy, along with huge flows of investment, donations, and government contracts, has turned Ukraine into a Silicon Valley for autonomous drones and other weaponry. This is huge, Logan, because this is their view from the inside that they're turning this into a Silicon Valley-like experience, but focusing on automated killing. This is going to spread to the world for sure, but this is where this stuff is being tested, if you will, in battle experience. Of course, you can't do that over here.
It's not going to turn on them and take them out. Once they launch it out there, you don't know what's going to happen.
You're absolutely right. There's a room for error everywhere on this and these systems, including some type of transmission or hack that could be implemented to turn them around and make them go back to the source rather than to get in the target.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing is never bothers the technocrat mind. They come up with stuff all the time that will eventually, is going to come back and bite us. But that doesn't seem to bother them. They just throw caution to the wind and go for it.
Well, like Elon Musk says that he thinks AI is a real threat and can take over the world as he's building AI and putting chips in people's brains. So
that's right. People don't think beyond their nose in these things, especially technocrats, I think. When they unleash a new technology like this, it's not thought through to the end. And sooner or later, it will be unleashed, kind of like Pandora's box, could never be shut again. This thing will never be shut because everybody else and their brother is going to start doing it. Even people in their garage can do this now with things that they buy off of Best Buy and Amazon. And it's not illegal to do it. The technology that they're using now is all readily available stuff. That's part of the scary part right now.
Wow. Would you want to move down to the other?
Well, we could. Nevertheless, this is something experts in the field have been trying to stop this movement towards killer robots, but they're not doing a very good job. Nobody wants to, the people who want to do it, they're going to do it. It's like the criminals. The criminals always find a way to get a gun, right? Arms control isn't going to stop this problem.
Yep. Well, this article says that it was a 28-year-old soldier in the 92nd Assault Brigade who helped push innovations that turned cheap drones into weapons. He first he strapped bombs to racing drones and added larger batteries to help them fly farther. It's right here. And recently incorporated night vision so the machines can hunt in the dark. Crazy.
You can't make this stuff up, Yeah.
Then there's the 23-year-old reservist trained, this is Ukraine, 23-year-old reservist trained 4 soldiers to use the latest futuristic weapon, a gun turret with autonomous targeting that works with a PlayStation controller and a tablet.
And it worked. This is stuff that we use all day in America, right? It's all off-the-shelf stuff. There's a video at the bottom of this article. We don't have time to play it here for sure, but the video is called Slaughter Bots. And the video was created by a University of California professor who was concerned about the possibility of a slaughter bot. He did this 4 years ago, and everybody scoffed at that. Oh, that's not possible. Nobody would ever do that, But he really got it right. That's a video that's about 7 or 8 minutes that will absolutely scare the pants off of you, because this is the type of thing that they can do if they decide to hone it to the gnat's whisker, if you will. It's really going to be disturbing for warfare, and, well, let's leave it right there, for warfare especially. When World War II came along, that was the first experience about automated killing. Airplanes, tanks, artillery. You didn't have to look somebody in the eye when you thrust them with a sword or whatever. That was basically the war that really scared people, the automation of killing. Well, we expanded on that. World War II, we had the nuclear scare all the way along the way. Now, this is coming to a new level of automation, automated killing by AI. What could possibly go wrong with this? You see, it really, really has a lot of problems. And worse, I suppose, our military and organizations like DARPA are knee-deep in this technology right now. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if they're some of the ones that are pouring money into Ukraine to develop these things right now. In fact, the first quote that I took out of this article was exactly that Ukraine has turned into a Silicon Valley. That means that's where the money goes, and other weaponry. The untold amount of money that's being funneled into Ukraine for weapon systems and other types of dystopian control, you just can't believe it. And they're not. Nobody's really paying attention to them doing this.
All right, well, we're coming up on our first break. We have about a minute. One thing I want to say, though, is if a 25-year-old Ukrainian soldier can build something like this, imagine what China or even us could build.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But I'm sure you have the technical ability right now with what you know to go and assemble some parts and do something destructive like this. You probably could. Yeah, if you could do it, anybody could.
Yeah, and then what happens when both sides have it? Then they just have drones fighting drones, robots fighting robots.
That's about it. You have the war, the robot wars, like they have on TV. The robots slug it out, duke it out.
And that would never end.
That's right. When you look at this video at the bottom of this article, slaughter bots, you'll get the idea. However, these things could penetrate autonomously, penetrate buildings, windows, apartments, etc., to where you can't really mount a defense. So,
wow. All right. Well, we're coming up on our break. We'll be right back after this 2-minute break, and we'll go over to one of the next two articles, and we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
All right, welcome back from the break. Welcome back, Patrick. We're going to be going over the next article we have. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all three, but the next one we have is the Rockefellers created 990 climate change institutions, foundations, and activist groups. What would you like to say about this one, Patrick?
Yes, this is amazing article too. Everybody understands basically that the Rockefeller family produced a lot of stuff over the years, bad stuff for all of us in the world. Even if you don't know specifically what they did, they have that flavor of being troublemakers for the world. These are the five Rockefeller brothers from left to right. You have David Rockefeller, for instance, and then his other brothers. The one on the next one in from the right is Nelson Rockefeller. He also was in politics back in the 70s. These people have done, they spread their money around and their influence all over the world to basically try to capture the resources of the world for themselves. I know this sounds preposterous, over the top, whatever, but that was my assessment when I studied the Trilateral Commission back in the late 70s. That was their stated goal, was to create a new international economic order. When you consider that they didn't ask anybody about that, to think what would we think about that? They just went ahead and did it. It's brought us all of this nonsense about Agenda 21, 2030 Agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. All this stuff is wrapped up in the Trilateral Commission from the get-go. And there's a long history behind it, for sure. But this author, Elizabeth Nixon, she's an old-time journalist from the old school. She's a trained journalist. She blew the whistle on this, that lo and behold, the Rockefellers have created at least 990 institutions, foundations, activist groups, climate change organizations. You can't say they did it single-handedly, but this was the driving force for all this stuff to happen today. And they just got away with it every step of the way. Nobody's challenged them along the way. Nobody's pushed back on them, basically. And so here we are today. And a book that was written by my colleague, a guy from Europe, Sweden actually, Jacob Nordengard, great guy. He wrote this book, Rockefeller, Controlling the Game. This this author here now, Elizabeth, was reviewing that book and basically adding some new stuff as well. But it's incredible how much influence, that's the point here, how much influence the Rockefellers have had over the last 100 years. It's been incredible. And I'd like to ask you, I think, Logan, there's a story at the top of this that I wrote as a quote from my book, The Technocracy, the Hard Road to World Order. It's kind of a long quote, but I would ask you to read the story and let's see if people can get it.
Okay. It says, Dr. William Livingston was actually an internet itinerant salesman with a phony name who created a concoction of oil and laxative and branded it as a cure for cancer. Since cancer was a dreaded and usually fatal disease, people would buy and try literally anything for a cure. Buy and try literally anything for a cure. He would explain that if his miracle cure was strong enough to beat cancer, then it would most certainly take care of a whole lot of other diseases as well. When William came to a new town, he would mesmerize and trick people into buying his miracle cure. As soon as anyone questioned his phony operation, he would ride out much faster than he had originally arrived. William was indeed a fraud and a con artist, but he somehow always managed to escape arrest or lynching. He died in 1906 at the old age of 95. Early in life, he reportedly bragged, "I cheat my boys every chance I get. I want to make them sharp." However, Livingston's name was indeed a fraud. His real name was William Avery Rockefeller, Sr., and one of those sharp sons was John D. Rockefeller, who was soon to become the richest man in America and grandfather of David A. Rockefeller, founder of the Trilateral Commission in 1973. The entire fraud being perpetrated by the United Nations with its deep roots into the Rockefeller family and with its modern genesis in the Trilateral Commission and technocracy smacks of the Rockefeller snake oil legacy dating all the way back to the family tree into the 1800s. The structure of today's con is the same, even if the scale of it is far greater. Utopia is yours if you simply give up control over all your production and consumption, i.e. the entire economy of the world. Unfortunately, people are just as gullible today as they were back then.
Wow. Okay. How does that strike you? That what's the old saying that the fruit doesn't fall from
apple doesn't fall far from the tree?
That's right. We can see this here.
Yeah.
Because what a scurrilous rat. This guy, his nickname was Devil Bill. That's what they call him. Devil Bill. Of course, if you didn't know him, you didn't know that. But once he passed through your town and screwed a bunch of people, that was Devil Bill that got us. And, this legacy, as sad as it is, this persists today with his whole family. They're con men. They're absolute con artists, and they're good at it. That's the problem.
And they have all the institutions and the schools and everything backing up their claims and brainwashing people, brainwashing the youth into thinking that it's all true.
Exactly. This is the essence of a con. When you can convince somebody that something's true, but it's not, by sleight of hand, you got them. You can basically sell them anything at that point.
Yep.
And that's what they've done. The same, I would suggest that the same MO today was present in Devil Bill's sales operation in the 1800s.
It's crazy.
Really,
so
really crazy.
How do we defeat them though? I mean, if they
well, that's the problem. They're so pervasive now. All the billions and billions and billions of dollars that they've funneled into this stuff to, for instance, to seed the United Nations, and all the stuff that's going on with Big Pharma, for instance, and the World Health Organization, et cetera. the UNESCO, UNEP, all these different organizations that have flavored the world, it can't be stopped at this point, not in any traditional way. But we're going to suffer under it, for sure. What can Christians do about it? Well, not much. But we can certainly check our own meter to where our faith is with Christ, because now's a good time to do it.
Yes.
Because tough times are going to come out of this. Honestly, there's no way around it at this point. That when the hammer starts falling in earnest, it's going to be really dicey in the future.
Yep. Is there anything else you want to cover in this? We have about 3.5 minutes left in the show. Would you want to try to rush over to the other article, or is there anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think it would be good just to probably just stay here and just think about technocracy for just a minute.
Okay.
As I have explained before, you tell me when I'm out of time here. I've explained many times, even on your channel here, that technocracy was an economic system that was initiated at Columbia University in 1932. The best book in history, a fiction book that explains what technocracy is, was Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Brave New World was not a book about communism, Marxism, etc. It explained a scientific dictatorship with no political structure whatsoever, but everything was run by scientists and engineers, basically by fiat. They told everybody what to do, and that was the end of the story. This whole thing from 1932, however, this was picked up by Zbigniew Brzezinski when he got together with Rockefeller to start the Trilateral Commission in 1973. This is what they were looking at, technocracy. It was a new way for them, for Rockefeller especially, to pull off the con that they've done to create a new international economic order based on resource allocation, which they're going to have it all under their umbrella, they think, and thereby wipe out the money system as we know it today and institute total control over all the resources of the world. This, by the way, is why Klaus Schwab said a few years ago that by 2030, you will own nothing. This is the plan. They will own everything, and they'll rent it to us, I guess, or lease it to us, but we will not own any assets in their mind because they have already accumulated all those assets into their control.
Wow. And then we'll have resource-based economy, which is how does that work? It's the amount of consumption you use and depends on how much they give you, or what? How does that work?
They specified in 1932 that every element of the of production and consumption would be tracked. They wanted to balance the ledger that way, where what's extracted from the ground would be put into products that would be allocated and metered out to the people to consume, and they were going to have that all run by fiat, by algorithm, if you will. They didn't have AI back then, obviously, but they understood computers, and they knew where computers were going to be headed in the next decades after that. That's because IBM was also right with them at that point in time in history of the Columbia University. So they saw the future of where computers were going to take them, but they specified back then in writing that they wanted to control every bit of consumption and production and tell everybody what to do.
Wow. Well, my alarm just went off, so we're out of time. There's anything else you want to say to close us out? Go ahead, Patrick.
Not at all. We had two thoughts here that they're both good ones, and let's hit it again.
All right. We'll be back Thursday, so we're going to do the show 2 days a week for right now. Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll be back with a new episode Thursday, and thank you for watching. And welcome to the Worldview Financial Report. Here it is, July 10th, 2024. July 10th, 2024. And joining me now are my co-hosts, Michael Weiner and Wes Peters. What are we going to talk about tonight? Well, one of the things I want to talk about, folks, is the international trading system is on the brink. The international trading system, as we know it today, is on the brink of perhaps collapse, not working. Everything is in upheaval with the U.S. economy, with America's debt, with inflation, with the destruction of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, the petrodollar, the rising of the BRICS nations, 59 nations now, I guess, are wanting to join this. So the whole international trading system as we know it is in peril, according to many experts. We'll get into that. We're also going to talk about the Fed chairman. Fed chair warns high interest rates could impact economic growth. We'll talk about insider activity, most viewed insider activity. We'll get into that. Why Gen Z and millennials are splurging on groceries. That's according to one study. And then the BRICS banking system, which I mentioned a while ago, the BRICS will use a gold standard. Isn't that interesting? Lots to get to. Let's get to it right away with our co-host, and that would include Wes Peters and Michael Weiner. Gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Good evening, Brandon.
Hey, good evening, Brandon. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go to my first point I mentioned, the international trading system. There are experts that are warning the international trading system as we know it may be on the brink of collapse. I listed some of the reasons why I think that could be the case. What do you think, Michael Weiner?
Oh, look at the U.S. dollar. That's your answer right there. We had Trump in office when he was brilliant with trading. He knew we were getting totally taken advantage of with the European Union. They were literally bilking us. He knew that was being taken advantage of by the Chinese. They were bilking us, and he was straightening it out. Unfortunately, the guy who handled that's in prison right now because he declared executive privilege and he's not a Democrat, so he's in prison. But more importantly, when you have a collapsing U.S. dollar, when you have a federal Treasury Secretary who literally has no leadership and goes to conferences and does nothing more than agrees with everybody else to handle it, and when you have us geopolitically so weak that our allies, as we all say, don't trust us, and our enemies don't fear us, why would you think our trading system would be good? Right now, the U.S. dollar is heading to a total collapse, and we'll get into that with the Federal Reserve Board idiot in his latest statement. But I can only tell you at this point of time that when you have a dollar collapsing, when you have the Chinese and the BRICS nations doing nothing more than what built this country heading into a gold-backed economy, what do you expect? Why would you expect our trading system to do anything more than collapse around us? Because who wants to work with us?
Yeah, and how is this going to create an issue, do you think, with trading, the fragmenting our whole trading system with nations? You any idea on that, Wes?
Yeah, and Michael's exactly right, Brandon. And, this is no secret. These countries have been talking for years about wanting nothing to do with the U.S. dollar. They're all forming alliances. They're dropping the dollar. And BRICS, I was looking at this article, they have a three-phase plan. And number one is adopting a gold standard.
Well, let's go to that. Let's go ahead and bring that one up. The BRICS will use a gold standard. This is something we've been talking about for some time. And one of the reasons why we were kind of bullish on gold, not that I don't think you buy gold to make money, as we say. You can certainly make money at it, but it's a hedge. But certainly gold is going to go up with inflation. It's going to go up now as more nations and central banks are grabbing it, particularly if the BRICS are going to use it to back a part of their currency. Then who's going to want to hold the dollar that's now backed by nothing? Nixon closed the gold window. It's not backed by gold. He cuts a deal with Saudi Arabia. They trade on the oil market with the dollar. The petrodollar is created. Thus, the Dollar's being backed at least by trading and oil, but now that's gone thanks to the globalists. And of course, Biden pulled the Patriot missiles out of Saudi Arabia. Russia seemed to rush in to fill the security vacuum there. And now they're going to add gold to back their BRICS currency system. Why would any of us want to hold U.S. dollars? I bet you guess many Americans are not in favor of this BRICS system, but if they're going to invest in something versus a fiat paper currency backed by nothing, many Americans might run to this system to invest in because it being a percentage backed by gold, which again is going to help kill the dollar.
Right, exactly. And let's not forget there are 10 countries in Southeast Asia that are following suit with BRICS, doing the same thing. So phase one, adopt the gold standard. Phase two, they're creating a unified payment system with advanced technologies being blockchain technology. I mean, that's here to stay. And then promoting central bank digital currencies. And my question, Brandon, is what is the United States doing to prepare for this when all these dollars come rushing back home? We've talked about hyperinflation before. This is something that you never hear our administration talking about. What are they doing to protect the U.S. dollar? And, our wealth is going to be significantly affected by this. When, like you said, you have no one around the world that's wanting to deal in the U.S. dollar anymore.
Well, here's the three-phase plan, according to this article at Zero Hedge, by the BRICS nations, adopting a gold standard, creating a unified payment system with advanced technologies, and prompting central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. So the Fed, they got their Fed Now program that we warned they were going to roll out with. Fed Now, everyone will eventually have to have a Fed Now wallet. Banks deal with the Fed, citizens don't. But it looks like we're going to all have to get a Fed Now e-wallet as they move us towards central bank digital currencies. But again, what Americans are going to want to be in their CBDCs when you can go over to the CBDCs of the BRICS nations backed a percentage by gold, Michael Weiner?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But, when you're looking at everything like Wes just said, when you're looking at the big picture, what are they doing? They're doing nothing more than doing what we did. They've copied us. And what you have to look at is what Janet Yellen said when she was in Europe months ago for that big conference. We're not leading. They don't want us to lead anymore. They don't want it. They don't care about what the BRICS are doing. They don't care about being a leader. They want to be part of a group, just like with the WHO and all the rest of the insanity going on. They don't want to lead anymore. They want to be a participant. So as far as they're concerned, we should capitulate the World Bank position, the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. We should give it all up. We gave away the petrodollar, which Richard Nixon said was one of the most important things we did as a nation in the 1970s to make the black gold replacing the yellow gold. They just lost that. We are not a leader. So it doesn't matter what BRICS are doing because we don't care. They're not doing anything about it. And people don't, it's the same thing. We go into our military and every different part of our nation. We are not leading anymore. So it doesn't matter to this administration what's happening globally. They just let it happen, and we're supposed to sit back and take a hit and eventually wake up one morning in a gulag.
All right, let's go to another topic tonight, and that is Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve. He's just testified before a committee, the Senate Banking Committee. Would you like us to roll that clip? It's about 5 minutes long. How much of it you want me to play, Wes?
From the beginning. Yeah, it's just an oversight of what he touched on before this panel.
All right, we'll probably start and stop and make commentary. Here we go.
Ranking Member Scott and other members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to present the Federal Reserve's semi-annual monetary policy report. The Federal Reserve remains squarely focused on our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Over the past 2 years, the economy has made considerable progress toward the Fed's 2% inflation goal, and labor market conditions have cooled while remaining strong. Reflecting these developments, the risks to achieving our employment and inflation goals are coming into better balance. I will review the current economic situation before turning to monetary policy. Recent indicators suggest that the U.S. economy continues to expand at a solid pace. Gross domestic product growth appears to have moderated in the first half of this year, following impressive strength in the second half of last year. Private domestic demand remains robust, however, with slower but still solid increases in consumer spending. We have also seen moderate growth in capital spending and a pickup in residential investment so far this year. Improving supply conditions have supported resilient demand and the strong performance of the U.S. economy over the past year. In the labor market, a broad set of indicators suggests that conditions have returned to about where they stood on the eve of the pandemic, strong but not overheated. The unemployment rate has moved higher, but was still at a low level of 4.1% in June. Payroll gains averaged 222,000 per month in the first half of the year. Strong job creation over the past couple of years has been accompanied by an increase in the supply of workers, reflecting increases in labor force participation among individuals aged 25 to 54, so-called workers in their prime working years, and a strong pace of immigration. As a result, the jobs to workers gap is well down from its peak and now stands just a bit above its 2019 pre-pandemic level. Nominal wage growth has eased over the past year. The strong labor market has helped narrow long-standing disparities in employment and earnings across demographic groups. Inflation has eased notably over the past couple of years, but remains above the Federal Open Market Committee's longer-run goal of 2%. Total personal consumption expenditures prices rose 2.6% over the 12 months ending in May. Core PCE prices, which exclude the volatile food and energy categories, also increased 2.6%. After a lack of progress toward our 2% inflation objective in the early part of this year, the most recent monthly readings have shown modest further progress.
All right, that's about as boring as watching paint dry. Why did you show that to us, Wes? That's pathetic.
Just an update. Jerome Powell saying,
consider the source.
I could have sent you a 2-hour clip of him talking. You know,
so sending me one for 5 hours.
I don't believe any of it.
Sending me one that was 5 minutes and 36 seconds, which we didn't even make it through, was gracious of you. Thank you for not sending the 2-hour version. Does this guy believe what he's saying, Michael Weiner?
No, he's just a political operative. What if you think about it? 3 months ago, what he was talking about, and 6 months ago, and a year ago, we had to raise rates to save the country, save the inflation, stop inflation, improve the economy, and all the rest. Now, all of a sudden, since Biden wants him to lower rates before the election, we have to lower rates because the economy needs it. He's nothing more than a political operative. He should be fired and gone. And the only way to get rid of this guy is to bring in Trump, because this is absurd. If you play back anything, I tell Logan maybe to look back over the last year, how many times he stated raising rates was the best way to level out and stabilize the economy. And now, because Biden 2 weeks ago in the White House are asking him, Biden in fact doesn't remember what rate is, legitimately is saying lower the rates because we need that done politically for the election, he's going to lower rates. So I don't believe anything this man says. I think he's a waste of time, literally.
Okay, there you go.
I find it interesting. He's saying that the economy is back to where it was pre-pandemic. You know, how many people believe that? It's and this 2% inflation is just it's a joke.
All right, here's another clip. Let's watch this. Fed chair warns high interest rates could impact economic growth. Here we go.
The health of this country's economy is center stage on Capitol Hill this week, with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell testifying in both the Senate and the House. And the Fed chair made some headlines yesterday saying while the economy is strong, holding interest rates too high for too long could jeopardize further economic growth. So we bring in NBC's business correspondent, Brian Chung. Brian, good to see you as always. It seemed as if the Fed chair yesterday may have been foreshadowing a rate cut in the fall. What else did he say?
Yeah, and it seems like markets and economists that I've been speaking to have said, all right, after his remarks yesterday, it sounds like maybe that rate cut could happen in September. That'd be the first rate cut post-pandemic. Now, when we talk about what he said, his overall outlook on the economy was that there are two-sided risks. Now, translation, yes, we know about the one-side risk, right, which is inflation. Americans have been feeling that pinch. But the other side of the equation here is the labor market. Now, the jobs market has been largely strong post-pandemic, but we're starting to see a cooling down on that from the jobs report that we just got last week. We're no longer, basically blowing out estimates of how many jobs we're gaining in a month. It's basically around in line with what estimates have been, in addition to the unemployment rate ticking up from 3.5% around this time last year to about 4.1% now. Not necessarily caution there, but just something worth watching, which is why the Fed might say maybe we should ease up on rates to make sure we don't put people out of work by keeping interest rates too high.
I mean, he's just threading that needle, trying to, it is a real tightrope. So if the interest rate cuts do happen, who will feel it first and most?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, these are things that we face on a daily basis when we talk about mortgage rates, credit card rates, auto loan rates, which, by the way, in many cases are near all-time highs. Credit card rates at an all-time high, according to LendingTree, 25% near. Now, when it comes to the housing market as well, right, those 30-year fixed mortgage rates at near 7%, if the Fed starts to cut interest rates, that could bleed through to all those rates that I just talked about. Now, it's only going to be a 0.25 percentage point when they do likely cut interest rates later on this year, so that doesn't mean that mortgage rates are going to fall to 3 or 4%, but it could mean a little bit of relief in terms of that 7% rate maybe coming down a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Wow. Okay. 25% interest rates on credit cards. I mean, I pay mine off every month, so I don't guess I pay attention to that. Really? Is that standard? 25%, Wes?
It's criminal. Yeah, there's some that are higher than that, 28%, 28.99. Yeah, it's criminal what these banks and credit card companies are doing to people, and have been doing it for years. I mean, it's been that way for years.
So are either of you expecting a rate cut then soon?
Yes, absolutely.
How soon?
September.
How much?
Politically. The election.
How much?
Quarter of a basis point.
Okay.
Quarter of a point.
How will that
do it.
How will
He'll
that
do it.
impact the stock market? How will that impact, you think, gold and silver?
I think gold and silver are going to go up because the dollar is going to go down. I think he'll have a little push in the marketplace because they're already factoring it in. The stock market is totally manipulated by computer. There's no inside trading arrest too much anymore because they can do what they want on the computer anyway, so nobody can catch them.
Well, in fact, that brings us to this article right here. Insider activity. U.S. market open, market closes. Okay, I guess that's not part of the headline. Insider activity. Why did you send me this, Wes?
Well, for example, click on Amazon.
Okay.
It shows you in the last 3 months and 12 months, these are all insiders, board of directors, people running these companies. Look at the number of open market buys in the last 3 months and 12 months for Amazon, 0. Number of sells in the last 3 months, 25, the last 12 months, 119. But where it gets really interesting, Brandon, is if you look at the number of insider shares traded. Again, shares bought by the board of directors and people running those companies, 0. Look at how many number shares have been sold. Over 60 million shares in the last 12 months. And if you go through all these different companies and you click on it, very similar. The people running these companies are not buying their own company shares at record highs. They're selling them out the back door. So why are the people that run these companies, do they see something on the horizon, something that's coming? Why are they selling all of their personal shares in these companies?
Yeah, now we're on Apple. What do you make of this, Michael Weiner? You used to be in this line of work. Here we go. Let's look at this one right here. Because everyone's crazy about this one, right? This one here, which I know a lot of people made money on that, no joke. But look at how that's jumped up in trading.
Well, the reality is, years ago, back in the Stone Age, when I started off as a stockbroker.
You and Fred Flintstone, right?
Yeah, thank you. Me and Fred Flintstone. He was my work next to me. But more importantly, they had something called open outcry. And I've said this before on the show, and they had a myriad of different traders on the floor, and every trade was done between two people. That's the way they kept it legitimate. Insider trading was easy to capture because you could sit back and get that by getting it from individuals coming forward, or the ability to track the information between them. That doesn't exist anymore. These people, right in Chicago Mercantile Exchange, where my old company and I had a seat, there used to be Like, for example, Citicorp had hundreds of brokers on the floor. Do you know how many brokers they have now? 2. They don't need them. They don't need the traders on the floor because it's not done anymore in open outcry, which was literally part of the test examination when you became a broker in the 70s and the 80s. Open outcry, 2 people, keeping it honest, doesn't exist. So how can you have an honest marketplace? They don't even talk about it anymore. So as far as the market goes with me, I think it's whatever they want to make it. And that's why when Donald Trump talked about the market, he never bought stock because he didn't trust it. And I don't blame him, literally.
All right. What are you making of all this, Wes? Anything else you want to add to it before we go to the next topic?
This is a matter, Brandon. This is a matter of watch what they're doing, not what they're saying. Again, the people that run these companies, anyone that wants to, I'll send this link to anybody that wants to have it sent to them.
And by the way, if they want to do that, just text Michael or Wes at 602-558-8585. While you're doing that, request the free no obligation packet of information. They'll send it to you. 602-558-8585 if you want that packet. 602-558-8585. You'll also be able to inquire about putting gold into your IRA. Or you could just sit there and watch as the thing gets locked up and potentially crashes. Again, I don't give financial advice, I give financial opinion. But if all of these people are selling their own stock like they're doing, like we just looked at, what do they think is coming? And we know that back in 2008, they put a digital lockdown on everything because they were having a digital run on the bank, according to that Democrat congressman and his video that we play all the time. Well, when that begins to crash, you're going to be sitting on your couch in your easy chair watching it, trying to hop up on your iPad or phone or computer, laptop, and fix that, trade. I'm sorry, you're locked out. You can just sit there and write it all the way down, your life-saving kaput. Or my opinion is you can diversify. Is that not what we're talking about here in part, guys? Michael?
Yes, correct. I mean, the idea is, if you're looking to just make money buying gold, go buy ETFs or go in the futures market, buy options, buy what you like. But if you want to talk about asset preservation, which every single person who sat back and did anything whatsoever as far as building an estate for themselves better be concerned about doing something to insure it and back it up. Because everything you have in your estate, 99% of the time, is backed by paper. What do you own physically besides your land and your home? That's what we're all about. We don't tell you to take every dime out of the bank and every dime out of the stock market and put it all in gold. We talk about a percentage of it for balance. And if you don't think you need to be balanced, my only comment is buy it later, pay us